Hello, today I'm going to show you how to put together the Coffin hot rod from Simply Crafty SVGs. And you'll see we start with the casket or coffin panels as shown. I will start with that top and the side pieces. And if you do like this project and you like some of the other projects on this channel, please like this video, and I would appreciate it as subscribe to our channel as well. Thank you. So we'll first fold everything on the score lines here, just carefully. Since those are skinny, it's harder to fold on those. Then you'll see the solid piece with the score in it. We'll just go glue to the side. So you want that little opening cut on the bottom. So we'll first line up the first little section to that side tab. Make sure it's centered so that that fold aligns with the bend there. And then we'll do the second one. We'll do this on both sides. That'll create the angle you see on the top of the coffin hot rod. And my excess glue. It's always handy to have like a little wet paper towel on the side. And you could put glue on both tabs at a time, but I'm not that careful. I just don't want it getting stuck by accident. So I say if you know yourself, start with one, it anchors it on. And that's why I do the little one first, and then it makes it easier to glue the second one. And what I didn't show here is it's easier to put those top panels on first. But I'll show you that in the next step. I realized it after I glued it together, but sometimes you do. But you can put it on later. So I'm just making sure that's good and secure. And then quickly we're going to put on the panels before it gets too much bulk to it, so it's not as easy. So there's the border portion here, and we just want to line it up with that opening so that it's thicker on the back, so it covers that larger area behind the seat opening. And again, if you did this before you put the sides on, it would be easier, but you can just line it up, and then fortunately I can just flip it over. Sometimes we don't take the right steps to start with. I try to make it easier, but not always so. Then there's this little piece that you can, I have it set up so it's the same colors as the borders, but I put the optional panels on the side with this color, so I went with this. And I embossed it with a Dairies cracked embossing folder. I just flipped it over to apply pressure. So now we're going to add these side panels. I'm going to flip this over. Had them upside down. These side panels are optional, those solid ones. You can put it on with just this, which I did with the brown version, or you could put that only or both. And we're going to do both. So first we want to add the solid panel. In a little center in there, it has a little edge around it. And then we'll add the borders after this. Now the border pieces do fit exactly in the spot. And I do recommend you hold it, the panels like this, so it doesn't fall when you go to place it. I've had so many panels fall and just create a mess. And then we'll continue to show you how to add the rest of them. So you just go ahead and watch this, and we'll be back with you shortly. So now that we have the panels on, we're going to attach these sides to the side of the top piece that we put together. So it's going to align on these tabs. So we're going to glue these on each of the tabs. So similar to that top one, let's start with the small tab first. Just anchor it. Make sure you have the right one. It's the flat edge you want to go up. I had to think about it for a second. And just align that edge to the tab fold, making sure it's in the section correctly. And then we'll continue to glue it. It gets a little cumbersome, but it's really not that bad. Especially if you use you can't use a lot of pressure, but since you can use pressure from inside your fingers, and you can go flat to apply additional pressure after you have it somewhat secured. So we're going to do the other side similarly. And to me, putting this part, there are a couple pieces that are not so great, but it's not that difficult to put the actual coffin itself together. The time that you're going to spend mostly on this car are the tires and wheels. I wanted to make them three-dimensional. Well, with that comes a little bit of challenge. So that takes a little bit longer because it just takes time for the tabs to glue and put the pieces together. So this is not so bad. Oh, and the seats, which is optional. You don't have to put the seat if you don't want, but it wouldn't be missing a whole lot, but it kind of gives it a different look. So you can see I'm reaching inside to apply pressure. Then now that's done, we're going to put the ends on. So it only goes on one way. You see the little tabs on the side? It'll fit exactly in the space. So if you don't think, make sure you have the right side for the right section for the right side. So between those tabs, it should fit perfectly on this tab. So I'm just going to glue that carefully, kind of flipping the tabs. Just get them out of the way so you don't glue them. And because of the angle of that top piece, that top angle around the edge, we're going to glue these little tabs jutting off here. So I'm just flipping them carefully in. Then we'll add glue to them and align. We're going to add, I had a little glitch there. We're going to add a little glue, and you can do it like this. I just flipped it upside down. And then kind of carefully fold it in. This is probably the most difficult part of this actual box. I mean the top part. Because you want to kind of get your finger in, get that fold aligned with the edge. So I had to flip it around because of my hands, how I was holding it. Sometimes it's just the way you hold it rather than the actual process of doing it. And then we'll do the other side. But just make sure you hold it in place long enough for your glue to adhere so it doesn't pull apart when you go to glue the sides to the inside. Those larger tabs on the side. Next we'll glue those to the inside. So I want to make sure that it was good and dry. Then try not to pull it too much up, because if you do pull it up at this point, it will take it off those tabs. So I put glue on that and just kind of align it inside and making sure that that edge aligns to the tab fold there. And then we'll do the same on the other side. And my little tab kind of pulled apart here. So because I pulled too much, that's why I told you not to do that, because it already happened to me. So I just added a little dab of glue, just a little bit. It pulled apart just a little bit, and just applied pressure inside. just to make sure I didn't put any more stress on that little tab. And once that's all set, we'll do it the same on the other side. It's a little bit different because I don't have the side tabs on the piece. I have them on the actual box. So you could glue it to the side first, and then the little tabs, or you could put it in the middle like that. But we're going to start with the little tab first. So you don't have to do it in the order that I tell you. If you find a better way, glue it the way it makes sense to you. I'm just anchoring it, reaching in and lining it up and applying pressure. And then doing the top middle tab, and then the right hand side. It's the same concept. And then having the tabs on the back, at the back of the sides, will help for the pulling issue that I had with the tab. By the time I made this video, sometimes there's just a couple minor things you want to change with the file. But I had already put a couple test boxes, so in hindsight, I would have put tabs in the front just like this to make it easier, but I did not. So I'm just adding glue to both of them to get ready, and then I'll just glue the first one first down, and then I'll go to the second tab. You just need to make sure you put enough glue on the tabs if you're going to do that it doesn't dry up on you, because I do use a lot of fast drying glue. Mostly I use Scotch Quick Dry, but I'm actually using a little bit of art glitter glue today because I had it in that little bottle. So now, before we put the bottom on, I'm going to add this little kind of dashboard piece. So the middle is going to fold back, and so are the middle tab and the side tabs. So it'll flip underneath. So I'm going to kind of flip those in a little bit to get it ready for folding. But we want to glue that middle tab underneath. Just align it best you can, the tab fold with that edge. And you can't really flatten it too easily because we have those little pieces that are sticking up, else you could put it just straight down. So I'm just getting it folded to get it ready in place, and I just pop it in. And we're going to get those tabs underneath the edges. So just using the fine tip applicators are good to have. Go ahead and I put glue on that, and then I'm just kind of reaching in, pushing up with my finger on the tab underneath the edge, and I kind of put it underneath so you can't really see it. It doesn't have to be flush with the side. It was just giving it an effect. And this is where we're going to put the steering wheel. So it does take a second to adhere. Make sure you do spend a couple, like more than a couple seconds to adhere it, else it will pop off. And we don't want to mess, I mean, you can still adjust it when the bottom's on, but it just helps. So for this, we're just going to anchor this bottom tab to the piece. So you're just going to line it up to glue it onto that tab. Then what we'll end up doing is folding it over, adding glue, or you could use score tape, whatever you want, but whatever your preference of doing this type of thing. I'm just going to use liquid glue and add glue to all the tabs. Kind of make sure they're not pushed down too much, because they need to kind of touch each other immediately when you get in the right position. That's my handy dandy take out Chinese chopstick that we'll use to reach in afterwards to apply, just kind of rub on the tabs afterwards to apply pressure. So just making sure the glue's not too close to the edge to leak out. I tend to do that a lot. So go ahead and we'll fold it over, and I'll start towards the bottom, towards the left I should say. I want to line the sides, and you see I'm kind of pushing it in as I do it. Once I get it into place where that edge of the panel is aligned with the body of the coffin, I apply pressure. Just rub around on all the tabs. And then you can do that too. Kind of rub it against the table. And I'm using the chopstick just to go along those tabs real quick inside. But just be careful of that little dashboard piece. So now that that's done, we'll put it aside and we're going to work on the seats. So there's two pieces, they fold the same way. So you'll see all the little scores. I'm trying to show you best I can in this dark with black paper. So they both go together the same. So for some reason, the first one doesn't make sense. The second one goes together the same way. So you can see how I folded it on the scores. And then you have the little tabs. So we're going to fold it over, and there's this little tab right here. We're going to glue that first. And it'll fold over on one of the scores and line up perfectly the edge to the tab fold. And you can see. So it's almost like an open skinny box now with little flaps. So it's going to just flap over. And we're going to add some score tape to those tabs on either side. The other tabs that flip in, I'll add a little glue to them, but I'm going to take off the top of these. I don't have a fingernail, so it's a little harder for me to get them off. So we want to flip in those little two tabs on the side. Really, those are just for structural reasons, but we're going to just add a couple little dabs of glue. Carefully fold it over, make sure it's aligned up so that fold is aligned with the other side, and then fold it over. And I used score tape because then it'll adhere immediately. This is where that comes in handy when you're doing things like this. So that's the first piece, that's the bottom, and then here is the back of the seat. So again, it's the same process. It folds the same. It's just a little bit longer than the first one. But once you've got it folded, it'll go together exactly the same as the first one. So you see I add glue to that little side tab and then make sure it folds over on the right folded score line, and then you see now you have like a little box. Then we'll get our score tape and close it all up here. So it's the same process. Just make sure when you're putting together the box that you don't squish it and collapse it, because that could happen if you're applying too much pressure. But that's why we're not using glue, because it does help so that doesn't happen. That score tape is handy. I think I have like a little like 1/4 inch or something like that. Once we have this done, we'll go on to the top of it's like the head rest for the seat. I thought it'd be fun, kind of give it a little hot rod feel. So we'll have a piece to put that together later. So just want to zoom in here. And this is a piece that we have to fold. You'll see there's a couple score lines. Kind of showing you want to fold them on the score lines, and then you'll want to glue this little tab, line it up to the other side so that that end will line up to the little tab fold. So you'll be able to see it at a better angle in a minute here. So those little scores, And I'm just kind of, I should have curled this before I did the gluing, but I didn't. But you see it's forming the shape of this little piece. So there's little angled edges because of the scores, and that'll fit in there like that. So what we want to do is fold in the tabs on one side. Just fold them, we're going to kind of fold them inward so we can insert one of the panels to glue to them. Now there's two ways you can do this. You can add glue to the individual tabs like this, or you can just put a kind of a fairly substantial line of glue around the edge of the panel, because it won't be seen, we'll be covering that. If you're using textured paper too, a tip is I always flip it around when I'm doing something like this, and put the non-textured side against like the tabs. It'll glue better. So you can see I get it just fit into shape. It fits just right in there perfectly. And then you just apply pressure to make sure all those tabs fold down. And if for some reason they don't, you can just get a little dab of glue in one of the ones. And this won't be seen, the back or the inside. So I'm just using a little bit more pressure, and you can see all the tabs are there. So now the hard part, I think the hardest part, you see that'll cover it when we get to that point. So you know that you're not going to see those. So we're going to fold those all in like that, but you want them kind of upwards as well. But make sure they're scored quite well as you, that folded down a little bit of a crisp edge. And then this one I would apply glue to all the tabs like this. Make sure it's good and wet enough that it doesn't go all the way through. But this is the front. So what you do, you just carefully want to line that up. You know, the actual paper is pliable a little bit before it sticks, so you can get it all lined up with your fingers, kind of align it. If it's not perfect, it's art. So no, I wouldn't worry too much about it. And for some reason you really messed it up, just cut these pieces out again. And then I just flip it over and apply pressure. But if it's a little bit off kilter, you can always ink the edges, stuff like that, to make it look a little bit better. Then that panel sits perfectly in the middle for a little splash of color. It's just a little extra that I wanted to do with this particular car. I usually don't do seats like this, at least. So now we're going to put all the pieces together. So we form the entire seat. So you can see that piece, I have the actual texture. It's not score, it's like a cut score. I made it cut scored, but I'm going to add glue to the top of above the score and a little line below the scored section, and then set that in there. So that should be, the bottom should be flush with the bottom part, and then the back. That would help if I took the lid off. And then we'll glue that on, making sure the tabs are on the bottom. So what we're essentially doing with this piece is hiding the tabs. So you want to make sure you're putting the sections down with the tabs. And then I put just a line of glue right there just to attach the two pieces. So again, make sure the tabs for those two little boxes are on the back and on the bottom, so you can't see them. So this looks like a solid piece. And then we'll glue on that, we'll just add glue right here to attach that top piece. So it'll be ready to put into the car pretty much almost last. So now comes the tires. So you'll see that we have 4 pieces with cutouts. 2 have smaller holes or rectangles. We want to put the two with the larger rectangles aside, and they're rounded rectangles. The sharp ones are the ones we want to use. And what you'll notice too is there's less space on the bottom there is the top. I mean, but anyways, it's not centered. So we'll get to that. So first you want to curl the pieces. So this is for the large tire, so it's the large piece. And near the tab, you'll see a little cut mark. You can barely see it. We're going to align the other edge to that cut mark. So it's just a little cut piece. We didn't want to fold it. Don't fold it because it won't be as round. And you can see it again there. You want to align that right in line with that little cut mark and obviously centered together. This is going to form the tire portion of the biggest wheel in the back. And we're going to fold in the tabs on one side and just make sure you fold them in fairly well. With the what we want to do is kind of push against the table, and we'll be gluing this in. So one thing I want to make sure is that there's wherever you glued the tab for that tire piece, you're going to add glue to all these tabs. And then you're going to place it in so the shorter part, the place with the shorter amount of space underneath that rectangle goes towards the bottom of the wheel, which will be where the seam is. So you're going to apply pressure against the tabs. You see it fits right in there. But the biggest part is, and it does make a mess, but we'll be covering that. The biggest part is making sure that you kind of take that perpendicular or parallel to the seam for the tire seam. So we're going to do another one. So this one again, curl it, add some glue to that tab, line up to that cut mark, and flip in the tabs carefully on the score lines. I had one that didn't want to go down. Make sure you make note of where the seam is, where you just glued it, that you want to make that the bottom part of the tire. And we are going to add glue to those tabs. And then make sure that the largest space above that rectangle is towards the top of the tire, which is not the rectangle piece. If you do have a couple that need extra glue, I didn't glue it fast enough, just flip them down and apply more pressure. And I had particular issues with this. Rather show you the pitfalls so you know this does happen. And then we'll go on and do the same with the smaller ones. Again, they have different holes. Put the ones with the bigger holes aside. And I hate to be repetitive about this, but the biggest thing is with this is that you see that the rectangles are not centered, so they're below center, and this is the reason I wanted more tire towards the top. So when the axle's put in, the tire will be higher. So that's the reason for that, and that's why you want to line it up appropriately. So where the seam is for the tire, just make sure, and I have my thumb on it, make sure that's at the bottom, and then when you put the little panel in, you want to make sure that the largest area of the circle is on the top. This is something you need to pay attention the whole time you're putting together the tires. I went to go center them and it just doesn't look right. It didn't raise the tires as much as I wanted it to, so. But I realize this could be a source of frustration for people. So here's the last one. Again, I'm paying attention to my hands on the little tab. Always paying attention to where that seam is. This is where a fine tip glue applicator comes in handy. So find the seam, rotate that panel until the smallest area below the rectangle. The largest area is on the top and lowest on the bottom. And then once we have this part done, we'll start on putting them on the axles. Okay, so now we're going to fold the axles. So there's the shorter one we're going to start with, and that's for the small tires in the front. And we're just going to fold it on the score lines carefully because they're really close together. And then once we have them folded over, we're going to fold over the last tab to form the back of the axle. And you can use score tape or glue, like I'm using Scotch glue for this. So if you do use glue, you'll just fold it over carefully. And then make sure it's good and secure before you move on. And I do use a chopstick to apply additional pressure after I get it folded over. And also I rub it against the table. And what we'll do is be careful to make sure that the side that we glued will be the side that glues to the actual, or attaches to the actual bottom of the coffin. So you want to situate it in the tire that way, or the wheel. So I'm gonna fold them back really quick here. It's the same thing. It's just making it flexible enough because we're gonna have to glue those inside to the inside of the wheel. I made sure it's situated so you can see the seams on the bottom. That tells me that's the bottom of the car. So we have to make sure we put the axle on the same way on both tires. Else you'll have one higher than the other and it'll be all wonky. We're going to add glue to one of those tabs, little small tabs, and then fold it over to the inside. You're going to see I'm trying to get in the right light. And then I fold over the opposite one and make sure that you're folding it over on the inside of the tab fold. And then I'll just add glue to those two little tiny sides. And then I apply pressure with my fingers inside and outside the wheel at the same time, or tire. So we want to be able to hide that little section because it's an open, it gives it a little bit more strength, and also that particular tire has an open cut on it, so you'll be able to see in. So you just want to put that solid panel in and apply pressure all around that piece so you can't see that hole anymore. Then now this is where that piece with the big hole comes in. So make sure you put it on right. If you put it on wrong, it won't fit. So you'll know whether you have it on right or wrong. So when you put it on, we're going to make sure you put it on the right way first, and then add glue to the back of it. And this is just to hide all the tabs because you can see them. The way that the wheels are situated, you can see them. So this is the hardest part, and that would take time. Make sure you again put it on correctly because it's got more and less, it's not centered. So you want to go around the edges, and it's not going to sit flat because those tabs are raised. So you kind of have to apply pressure around the edge as much as you can, and this will take a lot of your time if you want it to be good. But I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect, but there'll be a little gap. It's not that bad. But if you don't like it, just spend the time to apply a pressure right around the edge. And then I just added a little bit of glue to that section. It was just a little bit too raised for me. Remember, the seam on that tire will be the bottom. So hopefully you won't see that. So we're going to slide on the second one to get it ready to glue to the second tire, but you got to slide it on first before you attach the second wheel. So here it's a little bit faster. So again, we're going to slide this in and then glue those tabs to the inside. And you can see that tab is the tab for the axle is facing up, so that'll attach to the coffin. So I always do the 2 tabs first, the 2 large tabs, and then the 2 small tabs. So we do the same steps. The only difference is that we put that back panel already on the axle, so we can glue it on after we're done with this part. And you could have done that first too. You could have done that after this, but I always put the middle panel in first and then put the back panel. So I just raised it up, make sure the glue wasn't close to it, and then just slide it down. So the biggest thing here is making sure that you put the tires on correctly. So on the axle, if you put them the opposite way on the axle, then it's not going to fit the car. So always pay attention to how you're putting the axle on, because you'll have to do this with the large wheels as well. And we're going to finish off this set of axles. So we're going to add glue to the edge of this middle cutout piece. And then we're going to add that little border edge. And then just kind of get it set in place and set it around, make sure it's centered. It doesn't align to the edge, so just make sure it's centered. And then you can do the same thing with the second one. To make sure I wanted to finish this off first, putting that middle piece. And you could also use a different kind of, like a 3D element or something like that, but that's just a little cutout. And after we get that middle piece on, we'll attach these panels to the outside of the wheels. So now we want to flip down all the tabs on each side. So we'll start one side at a time. You want to make sure they're good, and I'm kind of showing you that you want to fold them down, get a nice crisp edge. So I'm doing that around all of them, and then I kind of lift them up a little bit. And I'm lifting them up because it has to be able to adhere the glue, because I won't be able to get pressure behind it. So we're going to add, I had to clear my bottle because it had started to dry up. We're going to add glue to all these little tabs. Make sure you don't get the glue too close to the edge. And then you're going to place the wheel on it. So I'll start towards the top and then kind of carefully go around the edge, and you're kind of making sure that you're adjusting the tire portion to make sure that the edges align. It takes a second, but once you get it there, you can apply pressure on these tabs. And then you could always put it against the table once you get it in place too, but I'm kind of pushing it into at certain places to make sure it's as round as possible. It's almost difficult to get it perfectly round. And then you'll do the same on the other side. So once you get that second panel on, we'll go and work on putting the axle on the large tires. So it's the same process. So I'm just gonna let you watch this process. The only difference that this is from the smaller tires is that there's really not a whole lot of difference. We put the panels in the same. We glue this together the same. You need to still make sure that the rectangle is towards the bottom of the tire. Make sure you put it on the same way. And then we need to make sure the panels are inside after you glue this axle, and that you also glue that back panel to hide all the tabs on the back of the wheel. So go ahead and watch this video. It'll explain it, and hopefully just make sure you pay attention to where that rectangle is. So now that we have those the large axle done, large wheels, we can just add the little panels, the little hubcaps. You could use it without the white, or you could just use the silver only. It's up to you. It'd be cute with a little bit of an embossing panel, like a diamond plate or something like that. So just center that one, and then the white panel, or whatever you want to put on the middle of the wheel. So after we get that done, I'm going to just clear a space here so we can add the little lights to the back bumper. So this was adhesive glitter paper. And then you can see that's what it looks like. And then we'll do just put the little lights, or you can put, I ended up putting rhinestones on it too, but I glued these on first. And then the ends, you can see there's a little cut line in the ends of both of the borders of the bumpers, I should call them. And those will attach. You want to fold them on the sides and attach to the sides of the front and back. Then here's the license plate, and you could pre-print something on it. So I didn't show putting that on, but you can see I put on the grill on the front, and you can put it as tall or low as you want, and the bumpers, and I kind of curved it around the back. So I used little glue dots to attach the bumpers to the sides, on the front, on the back, and then I actually wrote RIP manually rather than do it on a machine. So now we're going to attach the axles. So you only want a piece. I'm using this really double sticky red line tape to attach, because it's easier than glue. It won't move as much. But what this means is that I got to get it exactly in place before I put it down. So I'm going to get it into place, line it up, place it where I want, and make sure I have it as even as possible on both sides. And then once I'm ready, put it down. The biggest thing is just you don't need to go all the way the length. I shouldn't have put the steering wheel on yet, but there's a steering wheel, and there's a little dot, but I used a 3-dimensional perler dot for the steering wheel. So for this tape, you want to go in the middle. So you don't want to go to the ends, because you'll see it. And it's really sticky anyways. So now we're going to do the same. I'm just being careful because I put the steering wheel on. That's why we want to do that last, the seats and the steering wheels. And then I kind of went towards the front. You could go as far front as you want. It's up to you. And then if the axle's a little bent, just kind of bend the wheels a little bit. So I did forget to put these on, and I would have put these on before. Don't flip yours over like mine. I would have put them on before, but you can just center them up here. If you don't use the panels, it's easier to put them on, and I embossed my panels as well, so. But it was just something I could have just showed you with them on there, but I kind of place them in the same place. I center them and then place them. But if you didn't, there's a brown version of the car I did that's on the website. That one I didn't put the panels at all, and just use these, kind of a more of a traditional look, where the bars usually on the side of a coffin are silver. So I would have put this on earlier. Like I said, I wouldn't do it after the tires are on. So I apologize for that. So essentially it's ready. We're just going to add I put a little score tape on the bottom of the seat. And I'm going to carefully place it in, because once it hits the bottom, it's stuck. So I'm just kind of centering it, making sure it's in fairly the right place I want it to be, kind of towards the back, and set it in. That's it. That's the finished product. I had fun making this one, and I hope you do too for whoever partakes in this journey. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time.